12 to 24 weeks of pregnancy is a really interesting time, as you will begin to discover, depending on when you're starting the course. If you're starting the course at 12 weeks, you're in for a big surprise. If you're starting this course at 22 weeks, then you've gone through the rapid changes of this period of time. What is most pronounced between 12 and 24 weeks? Up until 12 weeks, you couldn't find the woman's uterus. Her uterus, even though it was growing with your baby inside and the placenta and the fluid that surrounds your baby, it was still hidden in the bony structure of the pelvis. So if you imagine the pelvis is like this, and in fact it's tilted this way, so if you look sideways, this is how the human pelvis exists, and you can see that in photos that you research on Google. So the uterus up until about 12 weeks is inside here. It's growing bigger and it gets to be about this big, and then the top of it lifts above the pubic bone like this. So you don't really see it, but the belly begins to curve just a little bit. Up until 12 weeks, a woman doesn't show being pregnant, she just feels fat. At 12 weeks, she doesn't either show being pregnant, but if you feel gently above the pubic bone and move a little bit to the back, you will feel this rounded softball-shaped object, and that is the uterus, and your baby is inside that with the placenta and the water that surrounds that. Between 12 weeks and 24 weeks, the uterus continues to grow until it's at the navel. So at 12 weeks, a woman definitely shows being pregnant, and the uterus, the top of the uterus, called the fundus, is at the navel. And the uterus begins to have more of this kind of a shape rather than a round shape. So the bottom part of the uterus narrows out a little bit during this 12 to 24 weeks. By 24 weeks, most women can feel the baby flutter. That usually occurs between 18 and 22 weeks, depending on whether this is your first baby or whether the woman has been pregnant before. She'll become more aware of that infrequent, very soft fluttering. But you can't feel the baby. 24 weeks, that means almost 6 months of pregnancy has gone by, and you can't feel your baby. Sometimes the baby will knock up against the wall of the inside of the belly, and sometimes the woman will say, "Oh, feel it," and you'll go and it will be gone, because between 12 weeks and 24 weeks, the fluid surrounding the baby decreases comparative to the size and the growth of the baby. Previously, from conception to 12 weeks, the fluid increases as your baby is multiplying as cells. And then as your baby begins to form and looks like a bean, then the fluid still increases. And as the umbilical cord gets longer and the placenta gets more defined, and it's fully defined at 12 weeks, and at 12 weeks it takes over the role of the ovaries that maintain the pregnancy. And this is why sometimes women miscarriage at this point, because the placenta's function doesn't work well and the ovaries can't sustain that pregnancy.